Beruchim haboim, welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together in Daf Lamed Ches Amud Beis, the last 4 lines. The Gemara had just previously told us definitively that when it comes to shlokos, cooked vegetables, the bracha is borei priya adoma. The Gemara asks one last question. Mosi Rav Yitzchok bar Shmuel, Yeroko she'odem yoytze behen yidei chayvosoi ba'pesach, yoytze behen it says over here that if a person wants to fill him mitzvah of moror on Leil HaSeder, he can do so with the vegetable as well as the stock itself. Aval, however, lo kivushin, velo shlukin, velo mevushalin. But not if they were pickled, and not if they were cooked very, very much, or even cooked a little bit, they cannot be used as moror. Ask the Gemara, V'isal kedaitoch, b'milsai koi. Then shlukin amai loy. If you want to say that a cooked vegetable remains with the same status as it was before it was cooked, then why cannot you not be yoytze yerdei chayvosoi of moror on Leil HaSeder after it was cooked? Answers the Gemara, shiny hasom. Over there, in regards to moror, it's different. The bo'in and tam moror veleko, because there you require the merirus of the moror, and therefore if you cook the moror you'll lose that merirus, and therefore you cannot fulfill your mitzvah of moror. Omar lei Rabbi Yirmiyahu Rabbi Zera. Rabbi Yirmiyahu asked Rabbi Zera the following question. We had an uvda previously that Rabbi Yochanan ate a zayis maliach, a salted olive, and he made a bracha before and a bracha afterwards. Asks Rabbi Yirmiyahu the following question. Rabbi Yochanan hechi mevarich al zayis meliach. How could he have made a bracha achroina? By the way, a bracha rishoina, any amount of food that you eat requires a bracha rishoina. Like it says in the beginning of the parak, Osir la'odem lehanos min ha'ilom hazeh b'loi bracha. So whatever you enjoy in this world, you must make a bracha even if it's a kol shehu. But here we're talking about the bracha achroina. Hechi mevarich al zayis meliach. Even the shakilo legarine botzer le. So since he took out the pit of the olive, he no longer has the size of an olive. That means the flesh, the botzer of the olive, is required to be a whole kezayis in order to mechayiv a bracha achroina. Because since a bracha achroina requires what's called chashivus, and the chashivus is a shear of a kezayis, when you take out the pit, you no longer have that shear. So how do you make a bracha achroina? Ask the Gemara. Omar lei, mi savris kazayis godol ba'inon? Kazayis beinoni ba'inon. Do you think that we require a large kazayis? No, a middle-sized kazayis. Be'ahuda aisi lekamed Rabbi Yochanan, zayis godol havo. The hafagav the shaklu legarinise pash le'shi'ura. When they brought Rabbi Yochanan a kazayis, it was a large kazayis. And after he took out the pit, then it was the size of a middle-sized kazayis. And therefore he had the shear, the proper shear of making a bracha achroina afterwards. Disnan, zayis she'omru loy kotam v'loy godol ela beinoni. V'zeu aguri. The Mishnah says that size of a zayis is not big or not small. It's a beinoni to mechayiv a bracha achroina, which is called an aguri. Omar Rabbi Abohu lo Aguri Shmo. Really, its name is not Aguri, Ela Avruti Shmo. V'Amar lo Samrutzi Shmoi. V'Lama Nikro Shmoi Aguri. So why does the Mishnah call it and refer to this olive as an Aguri? Shamnoi Agur Besoicha, because its shemen is gathered inside of it. Unlike other fruits, let's say like an apple, where the juice itself is inside of the flesh. Here, it's not inside the flesh of the olive, but rather the olive contains inside of it the shemen. And it doesn't find itself in the flesh of the olive, but rather it's being held in the inside of the olive. Says the Gemara, that which we discussed before about shlokos. Whether shlokos is the bracha of shahakol or the bracha of Borei Pri Adama, the Gemara wants to suggest maybe that's a machloikis in the Tanoim. Neima kitanoi. Dahanhu trei talmidei dahavu yasbe kamed Rabbi de Bar Kapora. There were 2 students that were sitting in front of the Rebbe Bar Kapora. Heviu lefonov kruv v'durmoskin v'pargios. They brought before these students 3 different types of foods. They brought kruv, cabbage, durmoskin, some sort of vegetable, upargios, and a piece of chicken. So when it comes to kruv and durmoskin, we're talking about shlokin over here. These are shlokos. Of course, pargios is meat, it's chicken. Nosen bar kapor reshus le'echad mehen levarich. He gave permission for one of the Talmidim to make a bracha for the rest of them, a bracha rishoina. Kofitz uborech al hapargiot. He made a bracha on the chicken quickly before consulting his Rebbe Bar Kapora. Ligleg alov chaveroi. The other Talmid mocked the one that was mevarich. Kaz Bar Kapora, the Rebbe got upset. Omar, he said, Lo yala mevarich ani koyes. It's not the one who made the bracha that I'm angry with. Ella al hamelagleg ani koyes. On the one that was mocking the mevarich, I'm upset. Im chavercha doime kemi sheloi toam tam boser me'olam ata al mal liglalta alov. If your friend did not have boser or this type of pargiot ever in his lifetime, in other words, it was chaviv to him, it was precious to him, it was dear to him, so then that's what he made a bracha on first. And therefore, why are you mocking him? Chozar ve'omar. Afterwards, the Rebbe Bar Kapora said, Loy al hamelagleg ani koyes. Not on the one who was mocked that I'm upset with. Ela al hamevarech ani koyes. I'm upset with the one who made the bracha. V'omar, he said, Im chachma ein kan. Even if there's no chachma here, meaning, he said it out of humility, even if I don't have chachma, but zikna ein kan. Is there no age over here? I still have experience and age over you that you should have consulted me to make the bracha, to know which bracha to say. Tana, it's taught in a brisa, Ushneim lo hotziu shnoson. These 2 Talmidim did not live beyond that year. The Gemara goes on to say, My love behoka mifliki. What is the machlokes between these 2 Talmidim? In others, we want to go back to what we suggested before, the machlokes tanoim. That we said when it comes to shlokos, we said one Tana we're going to suggest holds the bracha shehakol niyeh bidvoroi, while the other one says it's borei pri ha'adama, as follows. The mevarich sovar shlokos upargio shehakol niyeh bidvoroi. The mevarich, the one who made the bracha on the pargios, he made the bracha of shehakol because all of those things, including the shlokos, is also shehakol. Hilka chaviv odif, and therefore he made the bracha on the chicken, on the pargios, because that was chaviv, that was dear to him. Umelagleg sovar shlokos bor pri adama, upargio shahakol nim bidvoroi. Hilkach peira odif. Whereas the melagleg, the one who scoffed at his friend, he mocked him, that was the one who holds that really pargios is shahakol, and shlokos is also shahakol. Sorry, that shlokos is bor pri adama, and the pargios is shahakol. And therefore, he should have made the bracha on the shlokos, because that's a more specific bracha, and therefore that has din kedima over the shahakol. Says the Gemara, lo, that's not the machlokes. The kuliyama shlokos upargios shahakol ne bidvoroi. The Gemara is suggesting that they both hold it's shahakol. So what's the machlokes? Ve'hocha b'hai svara kamefilgi. They're arguing about svara. Mar sava chaviv odif, umar sava kruv odif. The Zion, the one who made the bracha on the pargios, that's because it was chaviv to him. Therefore, he made the shahakol on the pargios. But the melagleg, he held that since kruv is Zion, it gives sustenance. Therefore, that would require the din kedima, and you should have made the bracha of shahakol on the cabbage. Says the Gemara, Omer Rabbi Zera, ki avinam be Rav Huna. When I was in the base medrash of Rav Huna, Omar Lon, he said to us, Hani gargalide the lifta, these turnip heads, parminhu primo rabba by priadama. If you would cut them in large pieces, then the bracha would be Bari Pri Adam. Now we're talking about raw. We're not talking about cooked vegetables right now. We're going back to speaking about just the bracha of vegetables when they are raw. So he says if you cook these turnip heads into large pieces, the bracha would be Bari Pri Adama. Prima zuto, however, if you would cut them in small pieces, shahakol nebit voroi. V'chi ason lebei Rav Yehuda. When we came to the base medrash of Rav Yehuda, Marlon, he said to us, Idi ve'idi Bari Pri Adama. They're both Bari Pri Adama, even if you were to cut them into very small pieces. V'hai the parminhu tfei. And that which you cut them small is only going to make them sweet. It doesn't lose the status of Bari Pri Adama that you would send a bracha that would be shahakol. Instead, it would remain with its status of Bari Pri Adama because it doesn't get worse as a result of cutting it into small pieces. Says the Gemara on Rav Ashi, Ki avina be Rav Kahana, when I was in the base medrash of Rav Kahana, Omar Lon, he said to us, Tavshila de silka, the lo mafshu bo kimcha Bari Pri Adama. The cooking of beets that did not have a lot of flour, that would get the designation Bari Pri Adama. The lifto, the mafshu bo kimcha tfei Bari Minei Mezonos. But lifta, these turnips that would be eaten with a lot of flour, excuse me, they would get the bracha of Bari Minei Mezonos. The Hoda Omar, and afterwards he retracted and he said, Idi ve'idi Bari Pri Adama. They both will get the bracha of Bari Pri Adama. Why? Why all of a sudden would he say that if it has even a lot of flour, it would get Bari Pri Adama? Says the Gemara, V'hai de shodi ba kimcha tfei is only the vuke ba'alma of the law. Because he used the flour only as a way of then causing the ingredients to stick together. Therefore, it gets Bari Pri Adama. In other words, the klal that we said earlier is that if a person has any amount of mazonos, kol sheyesh boy mezonos, of the chamisha mina dogin, it will have the bracha Bari Minei Mezonos, even if it's a small minority amount in the dish. So therefore, why over here is it different? Because again, over there, when the bracha is Bari Minei Mezonos, that's because it's for the taste or also to then give sustenance. But over here, it's not for either one. It's only in order to then medabek, to then make the ingredients stick together, and therefore it gets the bracha of the other ingredient inside, in this case, the ingredient of the vegetable Bari Pri Adama. Says the Gemara, Omar Rav Chisda, Tavshil shel tradin. If a person cooks beets, yafe, lelev, v'tov le'inayim, it's healthy for the heart and it's also good for the eyes. V'kol shekain levnei me'ayim, and certainly it's good for the person's innards. It'll be good for his intestines. If a person cooks beets, it's very good, very healthy for him. Omar Abayi v'hudi yasiv abeit tifi v'avi tuch. That's so long as these beets cooked for a long time on the stovetop until they got to the point where they rang, so to speak. They made a noise of tuch. Omar Papa pshita li maya de silka kisilka, umaya de lifta kilifta, umaya de kula shalku kikula shalki. It's pashit to me, says Rav Papa, that the water, meaning the soup of these beets, will also retain the same status as the beets themselves. Umaya de lifta, and also the water of the lifta of these turnips will also remain the same status of Bari Pri Adama like the turnips. Umaya de kulu shalki kuhula shalki, and the water, again the soup, the water that results of the cooked vegetables, will also remain with the bracha of Bari Pri Adama. Now this is interesting because we had mentioned earlier, about a daf before, that when it comes to the juice of fruit, so the Gemara calls it zeya ba'alma. It's only like a sweat. In other words, it doesn't get the status of Bari Pri Eitz. Rather, it's a shahakol. So here we're saying differently. Here when it comes to the vegetables that are cooked, we're saying it has the status of the vegetables Bari Pri Adama. What's the difference? So some say the difference is because the vegetables that are cooked, it's meant to be cooked. That's normally how they're being eaten, into soups and things like that. And therefore, when they're cooked and there's water, that's juice, the soup that results from them, that retains the same status. Whereas when it comes to the juice of fruits, when you squeeze it, it's not considered to be the purpose of the fruit, unless it's olives, unless it's grapes. But that's the exception. Otherwise, they're not meant to be squeezed. Says the Gemara, Boy Rapapa, but Rapapa goes on to ask, Maya deshivto, Mai, what's the water of dill? If you took dill and you put it into a pot of water and you cooked it, now you have the soup that results from dill. What's the status? Dil mekutuke taime avdi? Is it coming to then sweeten? Or la'abure zuhuma avdile? Or is it coming to remove the bad smell of that which you want to then cook? So you put this dill into something, maybe other things that are inside of it. Is it coming to then add a flavor? Is it coming to remove a bad odor? Says the Gemara, Toshma, Hasheves, this dill, mishenitnatam b'kedero, when you put the tam of the kedera with this dill, ein ba mishum truma, it no longer has the status of the truma when you take out the dill. Ve'ena metame tumas oichlim. In other words, after cooking the dill, subsequently the dill after being cooked, it no longer has the status of truma. So here we see from this statement over here that this dill, mishenitna tam, from the fact that it gave tam, it sounds like it's a positive thing, that it gives flavor. Shmamina lemetuke taima avdilo. Shmamina. We can derive from this that indeed, even when it comes to the cooked dill, that indeed it was coming to then add flavor, and therefore the bracha would be like all other soups. It would be borei pri ha'adamo.